Okay, so we are talking about introduction to management. And the question is, why is it important to manage? Why the need for management? Why the need for management? Of course, we know that in business, a lot of resources might be required, but these resources are quite limited, and we need to ensure proper locations of resources. And so there must be a demand for that. And of course, another reason apart from proper location of resources, another reason that we need to understand very well is because we want to reduce errors. We want to reduce errors that can occur. And how can errors happen? Up to date, as we speak, machines have been introduced that can perform good jobs than even human being. But human factor is still very important element in every production process that cannot be ignored. But this human being is the one that gets tired. That is the staff. He gets tired. He comes to work when he's moody. This staff sometimes make wrong judgment. And it's the staff that also have issues with confidentiality. You know, when you're doing any business, one of the weakest link that always there is the human factor when it comes to control. When it comes to control, the weakest link is human factor, because you cannot be able to control and retain information confidential or even reduce risk because of human error. Because of this, many theories have come in place. Many theories have come in place trying to ask themselves, what is the best way of managing human beings? And that is why management came. So when we are talking about management, we are talking about management, number one, of human capital. But again, we are also talking about management of other factors of production, right? So when this theory came, people are asking themselves, this weak link, the weakest link in our production process of management, what is the best way of solving or sorting this issue out? And so we have those all ways of management, or all theories. People started coming up with a lot of theories. They were trying to look at the best way of doing management or managing people. So the first one, we call them classical theories. These are the people who started these theories. They are called classical theories. Classical theories. We have classical theories. These classical theories were the people who are so much concerned with the best way that we can be able to reduce losses and maximizing production. So their main focus, the classical theories, the main focus was to enhance production. They were looking at the output. They were treating human beings like machines. So that is the first thing. And under classical theories, we have theories like scientific theory. Scientific theory is under classical. We have scientific theories. So scientific theories was basically one of the first one, which was actually promoted by Frederick Taylor. Then after scientific theories, we have other theories on top of that. We have other theories like administrative theory. So this one was Frederick Taylor. So this was an engineer who was trying to come up with the best way of ensuring that our production methods are better. And resources were reduced, less hours were used in production. So meaning that wastage of hours were not there. Then we have administrative theories. So administrative theory was basically trying to improve on what the first theory touched or looked into. And this one was introduced by somebody called Henry Fayol. Their main aim was to look at the best way of managing human beings. They are looking at the best way of managing human beings. Then after that, we have the next theory. We have the next theory after that is called bureaucratic management approach. or bureaucratic theory, the spelling should be bureau. This one was given by Max Weber. So meaning that scientific theory, the one that came first, was so much focused on the production process. It ignored the human being. Then we brought administrator. This one was at least now looking at the welfare of human being. They were bringing in on board human touch. That is the administration theory. Then bureaucratic theory was now trying to come up with structure on how operations should be done so that we can have some orders. So those are the first theories. Then we have the second group of theories that are called behavioral theories. So these theories were also looking at the historical theories that were introduced earlier, but their main aim was now to look keenly how human beings behave. They were asking themselves, if we put pressure on people, if we focus much on productions and results, and then we forget about human being, we are actually losing it. So let's now look at the behavior of human being. And this is where so many experiments were done. So the first person here, we have here, the first theory here is called human relation theory. Human relation theory. This one was done by Elton Mayo. So they are basically looking at how much they are studying people and asking themselves, how do people behave? How do people behave? So they were studying the relationship among staffs and how when factors of maybe factors are changed or conditions of workplace are changed, how do people behave? So they are looking at basically the relationship between staffs themselves and even the management. And that is why today we are saying that organizations don't just need managers. We need leaders. Why? Because leaders are able to help people. They need to also get engaged and help people achieve their target. And of course, when you achieve your target, individual targets, when accumulated, you end up achieving the organizational goals. So meaning, when you are trying to align individual target or goals with that of the organization, you are basically trying to accumulate the overall goal. At the end of the day, you should be able to set them to align with each other. And when you achieve one, you also achieve the other. So these theories, they were actually trying to focus on behavior and the relationship between management and the members or staffs, the management and the staffs. So that is the first one. And of course, Elton Mayo did some experiments. The common experiment that Elton Mayo did is called Hawthorne experiment. Hawthorne experiment. So these guys are so much focused on human beings. So one of the Hawthorne experiments, there were 3 experiments, but the first one that is quite famous, this guy was asking himself that he took a number of people in a room, some ladies in a room, and then as they start working, they actually started varying the light, you know, like a steamer. So they were varying it. So they were trying to change. At first, the light was okay, but the managers were there helping or supporting the employees as they work. Then they reduced the light until to an extent that they were now at dim light. Ni kama sasa wamezima tu stima, they were making or working with moonlight, that state. But they realized that as they reduce the lighting in the room, the production level adds up. It inaongezeka, you know, it increases. So this guy was actually trying to confirm, how does staffs behave? How do staffs behave when employers or managers are contributing together with them or participating in the work that is being done? When you are there with them, how do they behave? Even if the condition of work is not good, but the relationship is good, then the production level can increase. He realized that people get motivated by more things other than salary and wages. He realized that motivation, encouragement, participation by management, recognition, those are things that can actually increase the level of production. And that is how he came up with that. And that is why at place of work today, you see people are being recognized. End of the year, they will make a party, they will recognize the best employee. Then in the morning, if you make some achievements in the morning meetings, the manager will always mention. That one is actually derived from here. They are saying the condition of workplace might not be very good, but there is a relationship between human, that is the managers, and the staffs can actually motivate the outcome or the production level. That is what he was actually trying to test. So he did other experiments that we'll be able to look at later. But then we also have another person who is also focused on human relation. That is called Abraham Maslow. Abraham Maslow came up with a theory. He came up with a theory of human being. Abraham Maslow, or theory of human being. Let me just say theory of human needs. This one was or hierarchy. Let me just say theory of hierarchy. Hierarchy theory, human hierarchy. Of need. Human hierarchy of need. This one was given by Abraham Maslow. So Abraham started studying further from where this guy had stopped. He was now looking at the hierarchy of needs. Of course, we realized that after his experiments and maybe the outcome of what he was doing, he realized that people are motivated at different levels. Human beings are motivated at different levels. And of course, what can make you happy is different from what can make me happy. A trainee who has just joined a new company for the first time will be so much excited with salary. He probably wants to move away from staying with a relative and have his own home. So that is his main target. If you can pay him well, and then he can move from where he's staying to another place, then he's just okay. But that one does not actually satisfy a senior manager who has invested and has families and has motor vehicle. You can't motivate them by increasing their salary. Probably these people need more than that. They need more than that. So they were saying that for us to have a good environment and increase our production level, then we need to identify the specific need of each human being or each staff, and then now motivate it from there. For example, our president, today, if you want to tell him that you want to increase his salary, do you think that can motivate him, increasing his salary? No. These are people who have reached at the highest level. They need something more than that. They need something more than just that. They need to find themselves in an organization. Somebody, for example, like our prime minister, these are people who have been there and they have done a lot, but he still needs something to satisfy. So his level of need probably is different from your level of need. So those are some of the people who came up with the theory. Then we have the last person under this particular category is called McGregor. McGregor's X and Y theories. You can write that. McGregor's X and Y theory. This is the third person, McGregor, X and Y theory. McGregor said that after doing some tests, he realized that human beings are actually different. Employees, there are those employees who like work, and we call them workaholic. And then kuna those ghost workers who never stayed in the office. So we have two types of human beings. And so he was saying that the best way to manage somebody, you need to identify which kind of a person are you dealing with. So McGregor said that we have these two groups of people. There are those that are motivated. They can actually work without much supervision. And these are the people that you need to identify how to work with. And those who need motivation can also be managed differently. So he was saying that the previous theories were not focusing on the kind of people that we're dealing with. These guys were only focused on production and the output, making order but not thinking about human being. When we came about the human relation, they were not looking at the individual in terms of the behavior of individual, right? So McGregor came and said that a good manager should understand his employees or staffs. Then now we have the last theory. The last theory that we have number 3. We have the first one was classical, and these are the ones that are under classical. Then under behavioral theory, that we're trying to improve on this, but looking at the behavior of human being, we had the first one, human relation, by Elton Meyer. We have hierarchy of needs by Abraham Maslow. Then now we have McGregor's theory X and Y. Now, the third one, we have another modern theory that is being used today. The modern theories that includes quantitative approach of management theory. They were now looking at the quantitative approach of management theory. They are now looking at the operations. They look at the systems. They look at the technique and the ways of passing information. That is management of information. Those are the current information, the current theories that we're talking about. So we have under modern theories, these guys are now going beyond this because management has more than just management of human being. It has more than just human being. So now we have information to manage. We have operations to manage. So we have quantitative approaches of management. And that is the third one. Let me just write it here. They are now looking at what are the trends like information, systems. So we have here modern management theories. So under this model, we have the first one is quantitative approach. Under quantitative approach, we'll be able to consider things like MIS, we consider like operation management. I know some people are now going for degrees and they are basically specializing on operation management, right? So then after that, we also have under this, we have system management, system approach. And we say that organizations are systems, basically. So we need to look at the general organizations, and that is what now the system approach is looking at. The system approach of management. So they're saying that organizations are like systems which has inputs, you get information or products, then you process, then you output. So they are looking at it in terms of that perspective. And they are saying, now in a system, you need to manage both, you control both input, the processing, and then the output. And that is basically what the current ones are now looking at. So you need to look at the assumptions. Why do they assume so that organizations are looked at from the perspective of management or a system? Then those are basically the end of this particular topic. And that is the topic number 2. I started with this. I started with explaining something small about management, which we are going to discuss further in topic number 2. But the reason is, this one is a core area that rarely misses in exam. It is a core area. Even in last sitting, they talked about leadership. They talked about leadership that relates to this. We'll be able to look at how they were setting questions from the same. So it is basically topic number 2, but topic number 1 is basically introduction. So let's look at something that you can write. Let's now introduce topic number 1. After that, brief a background of what management is. So we're talking about management, and we say that management has some functions, and people define management in different ways. People define management in different ways. I just want to go through a few of the scholars who have managed to define management. I'm repeating, I looked at these particular theories because these are the people who came up with this idea of management, and they were trying to ask themselves what is the best way of doing it. And it's good that I give you background on it so that you understand as we proceed, though it will be covered in topic 2 broadly. So we have people here that were trying, or scholars that were trying to define management. I can see Peter F. Drucker says that management is an organ or organs that can be described and defined only through their function. According to this person, is saying that the best way to define management is through its function. So management is an activity that involves controlling, planning, directing, staffing, and that. And then we also have Terry. Terry is saying that management is not people. Management is not people. It is an activity like walking, reading, swimming, or running. People who perform management can be designated as members of management or executive leaders. Then we have Dov Davis. Davis is saying that management is the function of executive leadership anywhere. So the last person that I'll mention here, we have Henry Payol, sorry. We have seen Henry Payol there. He's saying that management is focused on planning, organizing, to compound or to coordinate and to control. That management involves forecasting or forecasting, planning, organizing, to compound or to coordinate and control. So basically from this, one of the things that we can see is that management is a process that involves controlling, planning, coordinating, and of course the main aim is to do it to control certain activities. So we look at the management from what we have seen from the theories. We ended up even looking at the system. We even ended up looking at the informations. Then it means that management is not just about controlling human beings. It's about controlling general resources and ensuring that some things are working in certain order. So when you are defining management, you can talk about management involves. It is an activity or a process that involves planning, controlling, coordinating, and so on, various activities, right? So let's now then look at the principles of management. Principles of management. Principles of management. So principles of management were given by somebody called Henry Fayol. We have looked at it earlier. So Fayol was trying to come up with the best way of management, and he came up with a formula that can be used. He identified some few things that should exist, so for you to have management running smoothly. And these things are still being applied today. In exam, they might ask you, explain how the principles of management as given by Henry Fayol is applicable in the contemporary world. Tuko pamoja? Wanaweza kuuliza so that you explain how the principles of management that were proposed by Henry Fayol are still applicable. So you need to know which ones are they. So the best way you can always master these principles of management. Let me just run somewhere here so that you can understand it well. Principles of management. So the ones that were picked by Henry Fayol were DAD. That is the formula. There are 14 principles of management, but DAD, you see, USSROIC. DAD, you see, USSROIC. OIC. I'm thinking that the ones that are down there are not visible, so I can write again from here. That you see, USSROIC. There should be 14 principles. That is number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Yeah, so those are the numbers that we have, the principles of management. There are 14 principles of management that are being used as were proposed by Henry Fayol. So what do they mean? When we talk about that, this basically means the first D means division of work. He's saying that a good organization, or the best way to manage, you need to divide work to people. You need to divide so that at least you allocate people with different work. That will actually ensure accountability and responsibility in a situation, and that is why we have account departments, procurement departments, HR, everybody has their own functions. Then of course, after that, we have authority and responsibility. So they are saying that once you've given somebody some work, then you need to give him authority and responsibility. When you allocated job to me, then that means that you need to give me, I have to be responsible. So you have to give me the responsibilities, that my responsibility in HR function or HR department are this and this. But every responsibility comes with authority, all right? So that is the one that we're talking about. Then we have here discipline. That people have to behave. You cannot manage organization where there are a lot of indiscipline. People need to be organized. People need to behave positively, all right? Indisciplined person is not very easy to work with. And that is why HR policies normally have disciplinary action procedures in case you misbehave. So you look at these things that are being applied in the current world. That is what they call contemporary. So if you are told, explain how these things are being used, number one, you need to identify these 14 principles. Then you explain that the current companies will use this to do this and this and this. And then you give example. For example, if you're talking about division of labor, of work or labor, then you need to be able to explain how that one is applicable today. How do you see it being applicable? Then we have unity of command. So we are saying that we need to have a command where organization where there is a structure, and so command comes from a universal place, from center downward or from single position. So there is a command center that unites us. Organization where people start dividing themselves because of politics, office politics might not be easy to manage, and that is why even in every country there are normally command. For an organization to go far, there should be a unity of command. Let's think about churches today. I'm not trying to advocate for Catholic, but I can tell you that one of the churches that can go very far are Catholic. Why? Because they have some order which is required. Their order of even the way they preach, the way the books for every Sunday, the whole world, it is probably the same book. So there is some kind of order. And they are actually driving or borrowing from this kind of principles. They are basically borrowing from this kind of principles. And then they have unity of command. The highest person is Pope. And because of that, you'll be told that, you see, the Archbishop of Homa Bay or Kisumu has been appointed by his bishop to be in charge of Kenya or Nairobi. They are being appointed from somebody who is highmost. So you will rarely find that our friends from Catholic are fighting because of power like they do in other churches. But I'm not trying to advocate for them, right? I'm just trying to say that is why they have stayed for long and they can still stay for long, because they actually apply some kind of management principles or principles of management. So the next one here, after that, we are talking about the next one here. We are talking about so the next one after unity of command. After unity of command, we have unity of direction. At least people need to know exactly where they're going to. We also have subordination of individual interest. So basically what we mean here, that individual interest for individual person should be subordinate to the overall interest of the organization. You should put the overall interest of the organization higher than the individual. So individual interest becomes subordinate. Subordinate staff or subordinate means those who are quite lower but supporting the main. So those are subordinate staff. So individual interest should also be subordinate to the main organization objective or goal. That is another one. Then we have here we have remuneration. But I know you also know them. You can assist me to fill. So remuneration, we are saying that people should be paid the right remuneration. We don't want a situation where you are a finance manager in one circle, which is a tier 1 circle, but you're being paid 200,000. A same finance manager who has the same qualification in another tier 1 circle is being paid 1 million. That means that the salaries and remunerations are not commensurate with the kind of work that you do. And that is why people normally leave organizations, because some of these things are not being used. So even though today we are having labor laws, we have some bodies that are organizations that are trying to help, but it's still tricky because some organizations do not want to follow such kind of criteria. So another one here, we can talk about centralization. Centralization. That means that decisions are being made from one center. You know, we normally talk about bottom up, but there are areas where bottom up can work, but there are areas where top down can work. Opposite of bottom up is actually top down. That means that we need to have information that flows from up to down or down to up. So it depends on what we're talking about. But when we talk about centralization, we are talking about where the command comes from. The command comes from one center and then it's spread. It could be coming from up, from top, then it's trickled down to the ground or whatever at the lower level of the hierarchy in any organization, depending on the structure. So what we are saying, whenever we don't have centralized command, people will issue command from different areas or information. You'll find that this CEO amesema hivi, lakini huyu anasema hivi, that organization will have a lot of chaos. So we should normally have a centralized place where decision making is made. And that is why most organizations, they normally have some serious board members who have one chairman, and one chairman will make order, and whatever they will agree with will now be passed to various departments or branches within the organization. So that is centralization. So you need to ensure that decisions are actually made from there. Then we have scalar chain. Then we have scalar chain. So this basically means that at least there should be a hierarchy. So you should have a hierarchy such that when you are growing, you know that here at the lower level, obviously there are a lot of staffs. As you grow up, the few people are now coming there. At the lower level in every organization, any organization, there are so many staffs. But as you grow up, there is some kind of reduction in terms of numbers. So you'll find that you only have one CEO, but in a bank, we have so many tellers, even 100 tellers, but here we only have one CEO. So these are the lowest, but these are the highest. So we are saying there should be some hierarchy in terms of authority and in terms of responsibilities. Of course, authority comes with responsibility. So this person might be more responsible than this person. So there should be some chain or hierarchy of order in any organization. So that basically means that the structure should be well defined with right hierarchy, right? So that is what we mean by scalar chain. So with this, you can know who are you supposed to report to. As a senior person, you know that this is a person on top of me that I'm reporting to, but then I need to give information, or basically I'm in charge of some people. So a serious organization should be having such kind of scalar chain. Then we talk about initiatives. So basically what we are saying here is that organizations should actually encourage people to take initiatives. They should be able to encourage people to, or employees to express new ideas and be innovative. An organization that is quite stringent, that people don't actually accept new ideas, or they don't open for people to communicate freely and give their own views or perspectives, then that kind of organization has a challenge. And I know you can agree with me, if you are working somewhere where everyone is just doing their own thing, you can't even talk. Hauna sauti, I've been there. I worked somewhere where you can't give any opinion. The only opinion that is right is the one for the owner of the business. You don't have any comment, right? Whatever it says, you don't even have any idea. Again, when I was an intern, I used to work in an organization where I was just there. I'm not being told what to do, but I'm just resting there. Salary is being paid, so my work was only to serve. You get into internet, apply for jobs, right? But then whenever you try to come up with something, you ask them, the owner of the business, can we have accounting system? Can we have people on the payroll? Can we have organizational website? Those initiatives, they were not actually allowing. They were not allowing. And I can tell you, it is quite a number of years now, the organization is still where it was. They are not applying or giving that option for initiatives, right? This one is order. For those who can't see it well, this one means order. I know even in parliament, when you see those parliamentarians making noise, you normally feel like, why can't they have some order? So imagine if whatever is happening in the parliament happens in the real organization. Do you think anything can go on? Do you think anything can go on? So we normally need some order. So that one I've talked about. Then now we are also talking about now stability of tenure. Today, one of the things that you normally ask yourself when you are looking for a job, how safe is that job? People contribute better and become more productive when they know that there is somebody at the back. There's security in terms of the job that they're doing, right? You need an insurance, you need allowances, yeah? You need to work in a safe environment where there are a lot of, there is no possibility of you being fired anytime. And even if you need to be fired, then there should be order. If they need to fire you, there should be order. So employees or staffs are quite safe when they have some stable or they are assured or stable job. Wanajua hii kazi yao sio hivi, sio ile unakuja leo na kesho imeenda. No, wanajua hapa nikikaa na vile nimesign ile form agreement, I think this job is stable. You'll be having peace of mind, then you'll concentrate on the main thing, which is production. So that is what these people were trying to come up with. Then the last one, we're talking about equity. This one is not being applied. You know, people say that our organization, one of our values is equity. It is not true. I work somewhere in a bank that I will call X, where you find somebody joined just yesterday and you've been there for 2 years. Somebody just joined, you train this person, he becomes your manager. Ati amekuwa promoted, unasikia ametoka hapa, ameenda branch ingine alafu anarudi akiwa manager. Very painful. Because everyone wants to grow. And in such organizations, I can tell you that employees will be demoralized, production will be low, and there will be a lot of absenteeism. In fact, staffs might spend time looking for other jobs. I can tell you that when you talk about equity, this one is about fairness on how you treat people. In your organizational work, do you ensure fairness? When some people are late, you send them email, you make noise. But when some people are late, you assume, right? Somebody can just come to work in the afternoon, ametoka. You don't talk. But then when another one comes, they say, does the same thing. I'm not feeling very well. I want to go home. Then you make a lot of noise. A friend of mine was telling me that she was very sick. She was at work throughout the night. And the person who was supposed to come and relieve her also delayed. So imagine she was very sick. Na ameka job for almost 1.5 days, right? She was working in some of the company hotel industry where you can even work overnight and somebody takes over the following day. Now, you find that somebody is such stringent that you can't believe that this person is really sick. He deserves to go to hospital. So equity in terms of the treatment of people. Then we have the last one, esprit de corps. It is called esprit de corps, yani teamwork. Team spirit, esprit de corps. People normally become frustrated when there is no support from the members, right? And I know you can tell me that, Charity or Joel, you believe, I believe that you can attest to this, that whenever there is no teamwork, maybe you are busy, you are serving some client and another one is waiting for you, but your colleague cannot even help you. Or you are working in a bank, you have so much to finish, people are going home and they're just leaving you there. You are balancing, nobody helps you. It has happened to me. You are balancing and nobody is able to help you. Kila mtu anamaliza akienda, unabaki hapo and you are still new. There is no team spirit or teamwork. So we are saying organizations should always motivate people to come up with some strategies that can ensure teamwork, train them and tell them the benefits of teamwork, Team spirit or teamwork always ensures that there is that harmony, friendliness environment, better customer service, and even production. And people will like work. People will like doing their work. Up to here, these are some of the proposals that have been given. Just in case you are asked an exam, how do you apply them? You need first to understand that you see USSR or IC. That you see USSR or IC. Then after that, you can be able now to start filling. I can tell you that in exam sometimes might not be very easy to remember all of them. But if you remember the formula, filling them can become now easier. You just start with the one that you remember. Just start with the ones that you can remember, then you'll be okay. After here, is there any question? You just need an exam you state and explain and try to give practical experience, or at least how it is being applied in today's world. Then you can get your 10 marks or 5 marks or 15, depending on how the question has been asked. Any question? I want to wrap that. I'm hoping that at least you have written. Can just somebody comment, tell me that you've written that? Have you written? I can wrap. Comment, John, Charity, Joel. Yes, so Charity is okay. Confirm if your neighbor has written. Nancy, just confirm with your neighbor. Philip, thank you for coming. I really appreciate your presence. It was not easy to get time to be available for this class. As I said earlier, this semester is very short, and the best thing that you can do to yourself is to dedicate time so that at least you can attend classes. In case they postpone, like somebody has informed me that CASNEB are trying to postpone, that would be great. We'll be able now to add more. But at least we say it's better you come earlier. There is a saying from our language. They say that it is better you come earlier than going to a witchcraft. Start earlier than going to a witchcraft, meaning that you are now trying to find solution at the last minute instead of starting earlier to solve something that could have been sorted. So you can start as early as today. This is our first topic, and you feel most welcome. I'll assume that you have run this, so you have done this, and I'll actually now run it. Thank you very much. Now, when I was doing my degree, there was a question that I was asked. I used to do a course called organizational behavior, and one of the questions that I was asked to discuss is that they were telling me that managers are born and not made. Discuss. Managers are born and not made. Discuss. So what do you think? Is it true that managers can be born or managers are made? Any comment? Managers are born or made? Managers are born or made? They are born and made too. But Philip and Asema, it is also possible that managers are born and made. What about leaders? The same thing can happen with leaders. So is there a specific way of management? Do you think that there is a best way of management? Let's be interactive. My class is normally interactive. Last semester, I had a very nice class. People who are talking, leaders are born, right? Leaders are not made. Yeah. But do you think there's a specific style of management? According to the summary of the theories that we looked at, when you look at those people, how they were arguing, what do you think? Is there a best way of managing people that you can say, enda usome tu hii, ukifanya hii exactly, then this is the best way. Follow this strictly, you'll be okay. There are specific ways of management. Sorry, I'm trying to get some pens here. They are trying to misbehave. Okay, so I know you're going to tell me more about that. Let's think about this. Some people are saying that according to the theories that we looked at earlier, that management, this function of management looks like a science. What do you think? They're saying that management looks like a science and not an art. Some people are also saying that this management thing looks like an art. So let's ask ourselves, do you think management is an art or a science? So some authors regard management as a science because there are well-tested and experimented principles of management. You know, science normally has principles of science. They have their own principles. With science, you can test, you can do experiment. And we look at some of the things that have happened, like Elton Meyer. Elton Meyer was doing experiments with people in a room, testing lights, and now seeing how people behave. So from there, some people are saying that these things looks like a science, because it is only in science where you can be able to test, you can be able to do what? You can be able to experiment. And then we have principles which are given by Henry Fayol, the 14 principles, right? So the question is, can we propose that management looks like a science then? But then some are also saying that this thing is not a science. This thing looks like a management because it involves practice that are required. You know, something that is an art. An art, you have to practice, you learn, practice. And then they also differ the way you do them. It involves a lot of critical thinking, you know, and then, or creativity, thinking or creativity. So in exam, they might ask you, discuss management as a science and as an art. What does that mean? You need to give some of the evidence that shows that management is a science, and then also you give some evidence or descriptions that can support the proposal, yeah, that management should be an art. So let's look at management as a science. Management as a science. So what are some of the features that management has that makes it a science? Features of management as a science. Some of the features that when you look at, you believe that really this thing is more of a science than an art. What are these things? What are these things? What are these things? Can somebody tell me a few? Just type even two only, then I'll give you the rest. Just a few, then I give the rest. Yeah, can somebody tell me what do you, when you think about science, what are there in sciences that you can see in management? What are some of the things that happens in sciences that you see in management? Just think about maybe even some of the theories in sciences. I'm trying to forget them. I used to learn more about physics those days when I was in high school. But today I don't even remember a few. Huh? That person who detect or discover about gravitational force. What do you think some of the things that he was looking at that are also applicable in science? So science is a systematic body that is quite universally accepted, right? So you can start with that. That management has universal principles, specific way of doing things, makes it a science. Yes, Charity, that is exactly. So there is specific or systematic way of doing things, systematic way of doing things. That is the first one. Specific or systematic way of doing things. So that is one, because we are saying, according to the principles that we are given, if you follow them, then you find management quite easy. So if those principles can be applied throughout, then that is the best way to do it. Then in that case, that is the procedure. Those are the best things that should be done. Then in that case, it is a science. Then universal principles, the same principles can be applied throughout all over in every given country. So we are saying, again, that makes it a science, universal principles. Another one, we talked about experiment. You can be able to test how people behave. So like the one for Elton Mayo, that makes a management a science, because sciences involves experiment. Arts like music, there are no experiment. They are things that involves only critical thinking or creativity. But with science, not much creativity. You have to have things that can be traced, things that if you do and somebody follows the same procedure can still find the same results. So those are some of the evidence. So scientific inquiry and experiment. Scientific inquiry and experiment. What else do you think is there? We also have cause-effect relationship. Cause-effect relationship. Like which one? Cause-effect relationship, in science, we normally say that every action there is a reaction, right? Is it true? So when you talk about cause-effect relationship, we're basically saying that when you do something, there is an outcome that is expected or predetermined. An experiment that we have seen is that when you reduce a lot of light, but then you motivate, then we know the effect. There is a relationship between motivating employees and the productivity. So that is cause-effect relationship. And if that is true and can be confirmed over and over through experiment or some test, then that one makes it qualify to be a science, because it can be proven. It can be proven. So it has cause-effect relationship. And then we also have predictability with science experiments. The test that you're doing should be easily predicted. So the predictability of the results or the outcome of any test that you're doing in management are also predetermined. So we are talking about test or validity and predictability. You can always confirm that. You can always confirm or predict the outcome, right? So then those one makes them qualify makes management qualify as a science. Are we there? I hope you've written those ones. The first one, systematic body of knowledge or approach that Charity has given. There is a best way of doing things or specific way of doing things. Universal principles. They have universal principles that can be applied throughout. We also have scientific experiments that can be confirmed. We also have cause-effect relationship. We know that when you do this, the outcome will probably this. When you promote or you motivate employees, production level and happiness will be there. So those are things that can be determined. Then predictability is that the outcome can be obvious. The outcome can be predicted. Anytime you can test and the outcome can be the same. Let's now look at management as an art. What makes management be an art? Number one, these are practical knowledge. There is practical knowledge, right? So these are things that you learn. You are born without it, but then you learn, then you apply it. It becomes possible. So there's a practical use of knowledge. Number two, it needs personal skills. Personal skills, like science. Science does not need personal skills. There are things that you can confirm. But now, with management, we are saying that even a good manager needs to have interpersonal skill, communication skill, tactical skills, or whatever. So even management is an art, just like music, just like football. Those are personal skills, right? Those are arts. So personal skills that varies from one person to another. We have some good managers, they went to the same schools, but they have good skills than the others. Those are personal attributes. And that makes it an art. We also say that management are intended towards achieving certain goals. Whatever you're doing in management, your main aim is to achieve certain results. So the fact that you are doing those things to achieve a certain result, that makes it an art, right? Even in football, you play so that you score. And when you score, you gain, right? In music, you're sing so that you can get some views, probably on YouTube, and get money, right? Then we also have any other thing that you're doing, like an art, there is expected result. So we are saying result-oriented approach. The approach for management is result-oriented. So that makes it an art result-oriented approach. It involves creativity. It involves creativity. That is also another one. Management involves creativity. So art is basically creative, and an artist aims at producing producing something that had not existed before. Therefore, every piece of an art requires imagination, intelligence to create. Like any other art, management is creative. Management involves creativity. A manager effectively combines and coordinates the factors of production to create certain goods and services of high quality. So because you have to think and combine the best way, or use the best way of allocation of resources, that is a creative way of thinking of management. So that again makes us think that this management thing, probably it is an art because it involves creativity. We also have another one, improvement of thoughts, improvement through people, improvement through people. That management, you can keep on improving as you learn. Not like science, which it is something that is obviously there. With management, you learn by looking at what people are doing. So that makes it an art. You know, just like even football or jumping, you can watch through, you can watch YouTube or whatever, you learn and improve by seeing. That is not science. That is something that you are making your own effort to come up with the results. So the fact that you're improving. So we are saying, practice makes perfect. That is true. Practice makes perfect. So every artist becomes more and more efficient through constant practice. You practice through people and become efficient. And that is not science. Only art can be able to do that. Only art, you can be able to do that. So that is basically the proof that management is let's now look at management as a professional. Do you think that management is professional? Management, is it professional? Like accountants, so managers, are they professionals? Can we say managers are professionals? Or what is a profession? Management as a profession. Let's speak, let's interact. What is a profession? Or give me example of profession so that we pick from there. Examples of professions. Just interact. Imagine me naongea throughout, you guys are just there, not even commenting, chatting, anything. We want to know whether management is also professional. You either define or give me example of profession. Charity, John, Marianne, please, okoa mimi hapa. Andrew, please okoa mimi. Example of professions. Or I can unmute one of you to speak. Okay, so it seems that there's a problem with my audio. You guys don't get me. Accountants, yes. Doctors, thank you very much. In fact, Marianne, you've just talked of doctors. You reminded me some of the things that I used to do. You know, when I was young, at the age, not young, but I was in Form 1, I thought that I would be a doctor. And people normally have dreams. So at that level, I was thinking like, if I grow up, I want to be a doctor. Then there is a day I was just walking in town, on nearest town. There was an accident that happened that was so bad, and the victim was being taken to the hospital. So I find that the skull was actually out. The skull was actually out. Then I said that I can't even handle this. I can't even see. I can't even look at this. So then I realized that some of these things that we do, you don't do it because you learn. You do it because it is a calling. It's a calling. So with that in mind, I can tell you that profession is a calling. But it's a calling that you do it with all your heart, but it again needs a lot of consistent, long-term learning, intensive academic work. That is basically a profession. So then people can say that you are professional because number one, you have interest and you've been doing that consistently. So examples are lawyers, they take a lot of years, doctors, they take a lot of years, engineers, those are professional, right? So management are also assumed to be professional because of some of these features. Number one, professionals normally have well-defined body of knowledge. Really, well-defined body of knowledge. If you are going to be a doctor, you learn that thing for almost 6 years. Very well defined, right? So there's a knowledge that you need. Then also, we also say that professionals are also some restriction. You can't just be accountant. You must go through some legal approval. Again, it happens with lawyers. You have to go to Kenya School of Law and whatever, those processes. Then again, Kenya, we also have Board of Engineers, Kenya Board of Engineers. If you're an engineer, you have to be approved. So we are saying that even management, it also drives some of these characteristics or features, and some of them that there's a well-defined management knowledge. For you to be a good manager, you need to keep on learning these things. Like after this, you should be a good manager because these things you have learned them through your classes or through the course that we're doing, LM. The same thing with management, there are courses that you can still learn about management to make you become better. Another thing is about service motive. Managements are like a calling, so your main aim might not just be money, but to see things working in a certain way. So even professionals, their main aim probably is not just money, but they get money by doing things that they like. So we are saying the first characteristics is that there is a well-defined body of knowledge. Number two, service motive. Number three, code of conduct. There's a way managers should behave and they are being trained. So there is code of conduct for professionals. Then number four, there is a representative of professional association. I'm not sure if managers also have a body like the one for we have for ISPAC management representation, but I believe because we have KIM, Kenya School of Management. Is it KIM? Kenya Institute of Management. So I think for you to be a good manager or something, managers normally do some courses that relates with management. So that probably that means that they have some professional bodies. I've not reached that level. Maybe if there is a manager in the house can tell us, do we have a body for management or managers? Do you have a body for management? And look at the last area, that is the importance of management. Then we can stop there. We shall continue the class next week, Saturday. Sunday usiku. We normally have this class on Saturday. Saturday to 8 p.m. Sorry, 8 p.m. Then we also have it on Sunday 6. So you can join our paid group so that you can be able to benefit, get in touch, so that you can get the payment details. We charge small amount of money. We only charge 3,500 per unit. But right now, because I know some of you are still waiting for results, if you're waiting for results, you can even pay 1,000. Join the paid group, get the materials there, and join classes as usual, so that you are not left behind. Let's look at the importance of management. Why is it important to manage? Why is it important to manage something? Importance of management. How does one join the paid group? You just pay. Once you are paid, then you can share the M-Pesa message with this number. Let me give you a pay bill and the M-Pesa message, and then the number. So those are the functions of management. The first one, achievement of organizational goals. The second one, minimization of cost. That is cost of production. Number two, optimum utilization of resources, survival and growth. But also you can also talk about competitive advantage. There are so many competitive advantage. If you have good managers, then companies will be just seeing you for view sasa, because you'll be doing well, they will be seeing you for view sasa. Then we have general generation of employment. Then we have efficient functional of businesses. The business will be functioning well. Then the last one, growth of the nation or development of the nation, because you'll be able to create employment to people. You'll be able to encourage people to apply factors of production. Those who are growing crop will be growing crops, because they know if they are growing sugarcane and they take it to Mumias, the managers there are good, and so economy will grow. Thank you very much. See you. Any questions?